And good morning. It is August 5th of 2019. And not much going on, but I'm going to talk anyway. Right here on Guy's Daily Drive. Yes, it is Monday morning. The dreaded Monday morning. First full week back after Macstock. It's always so sad. You know, I've gone to Macstock each year for 5 years, and there's always a letdown when it's over. Not dissimilar to the same kind of letdown I felt after a Macworld Expo. It was always just so much fun to see all my friends and fellow writers and people that I worked with, albeit long distance, at MyMac.com. We always had a huge crowd of people from MyMac.com at the Macworld Expo. And we don't have quite that many typically at Macstock, but not counting Tim and myself, David's gone for 3 years, and there's usually at least 2 to 3 others from Macstock that are there. Sorry, from MyMac that are there, and to put the name to, or put the face to the name from all the different articles. From all the different articles that Gaz and I talk about at mymac.com is a plus. To see the actual people. The ride home was kind of anticlimactic. It sort of was less stressful because I didn't have the whole got to get to Chicago and then figure out where the rental car counter is and how am I going to get to McHenry County and find the hotel and did I get a big enough car and everything else that goes along with going to a big event. And when you're going home, you're going home. You're going to get there and things will be pretty much where you left them when you went away. And this is pretty much what happened. We were about 2 hours late, maybe 2.5 hours late getting back. The problem being that there were some parts of the track that were kind of turned off, not allowed to have trains go through for one reason or another, typically track repair, things like that. And because of how Amtrak works, they lease the tracks from the big freight companies, and they run on the same tracks as they do. But because these tracks are owned by the freight companies, they have first priority. So as Amtrak is going down the line, they have to stop and wait for freight trains to go by. And it's their tracks, so their rules, I guess. The weird thing coming back was that the tracks that were down were always on the other side. We were going east, so it was the westbound tracks that were having issues. So we would have to sit way, way, way back while a freight train would go from a westbound track to an eastbound track and then cut back over to the westbound track. And then after that had happened, we could go through. But I mean, this would be a delay of anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes while we just kind of sat there and cooled our heels waiting for the freight train to go by. And again, I mean, these things happen. I didn't have Tracy come and pick me up because I knew that there were going to be delays. And she doesn't like going downtown anyway. Who does? Unless you live there, I guess. So I told her just stay home. I was grateful enough that she took me to the train station. But the fact that I couldn't really give her a definitive time when we were going to get in. Plus, it was going to be well into rush hour before I could get from the train to a car and then start heading south out of DC. And the only thing worse than dealing with downtown traffic is dealing with traffic trying to leave downtown. I mean, it's just awful. So I got a cab, and unsurprisingly, traffic was awful. It took us, I'm gonna say, over an hour to go the 15 miles or so from where Union Station is in downtown DC to where we live. It's not that far, but when you have a large amount of cars all trying to go in the same direction at the same time, well, undercapacity roads with overcapacity traffic means it's going to take a long time, and it did. So worth it though, and I'm going to do it again next year. I don't know if I'll take the train. There were parts of being on the train that made the trip much easier, and there were parts that just made it kind of like the parts that made it easier was that I didn't have to drive. So there wasn't the sitting behind the wheel of a car for 13 to 15 hours driving from east to west to Chicago. But then at the same time, instead of sitting in a car, I'm sitting on a train. So for even longer, it's like 17 to 18 hours on the train to get there. And it was, it was not super stressful, but it's kind of like if you're not, when you're driving, you're actually actively doing something. You're having to pay attention to what's going on around you. You're having to watch what other cars are doing and make sure that your speed doesn't get above a certain level. And so there's stuff to do. There's stuff to occupy your mind. When you go on a train, long distance, you really don't have much to do. I mean, especially in a small compartment like what I had. You're just sitting there. You're just doing nothing. You can read a book, you can watch movies, you can go to the observation car, which if you're not in an area that is particularly filled with, beautiful things, there's not really much to see. And, you're going through the mountains of Pennsylvania and past all these little small towns, and then doing the same thing in Ohio, and then the same thing in Indiana. And all of these sites, except for maybe some of the mountain sites, are not that dissimilar from one another. There's not a whole lot of variety in what it is you're seeing. If you go west of Chicago, you'll see some different things. A lot of it is completely flat land, but you'll go through different areas of the country. But the eastern part of the United States, I don't think there's really a whole lot of diversity, especially once you're like past the mountains. It just kind of looks the same, no matter what it is you're doing. So, as far as cost goes, I would love to say that it was kind of a wash, but it's not. A hotel, because I'm well past the age that I can just get in a car and drive for 13 to 14 hours. I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. What I might try next year is doing kind of what I did when I would go to Florida to see my parents when I was traveling, which is leave late at night so you don't have to deal with the traffic in this area, and go until early in the morning, and then find some place to stop, and then just sit there. Don't really do much until the sun comes up. Get like 4 to 5 hours of rest, without moving around, without driving. Maybe I'll try that next year. There's no reason why I can't, get a solid 4 to 6 hours in late at night, especially with a nap or whatever, and then finish the drive after that on a Thursday. Like leave on a Wednesday night, get there on a Thursday. It would also mean that I wouldn't have to take that Wednesday off. I could go to work, just make sure the car was packed, and then get back to the house and take a nap, and then get up and then drive. So maybe I'll try that next year, just as an experiment. And if I don't get there until Friday, then I don't get there until Friday. And that would be much less expensive. But even if I did it the way I normally did, which was leave Wednesday morning, go until I got tired on Wednesday, spend the night in a hotel, and then finish the drive on Thursday, it's still less expensive than going by a train. It's a hotel room, even in a relatively nice hotel, is going to cost you at most about $150 each way. Whereas the sleeper car that I had on the train was about $350, $360 each way. So even figuring in gas and an extra or 2 extra days renting a car, it's still more expensive to take the train. The only advantage that it had was that there was less stress than driving myself. And I don't know if that was really worth it or not. I will try it again next year and drive it and see if I feel any differently. Anyway, that's going to about do it for today. Thank you all for watching and or listening to Guy's Daily Drive, assuming that this is recording. I'm getting a slightly different recording button than I did for previous versions of this app that I use, which is Filmic Pro. If you'd like to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me by sending me an email, guy@mymac.com. You can also reach me on the Twitters. I have 2 different Twitter accounts. I have my trusty old Mac Parrot, and I also have Bert Shark, which is relatively new and directly related to the website where I put all these things up at. You can, of course, subscribe to what I do over on YouTube. If you just look me up by name, Guy Searle, Guy-Serle, you'll see all of the videos that I do. And since I've started doing Mac to the Future Go and Guy's Daily Drive, I've got a lot of content. I've got a lot of content up there. So check that out over on YouTube. You can also subscribe to Guy's Daily Drive, which will also, a special bonus, get you the audio version of Mac to the Future Go, which is the live cast that I do on Wednesday nights. And, of course, there is also the wonderful, wonderful MyMac.com podcast that I do with Gary Malpaz over there. That's also in iTunes. We've been doing that for a very long time. We're coming up on our 500th episode together at some point later this year. I don't have the specs in front of me. But, yeah, you can check that out. We have a great time with that show. A new episode just came out. If you'd like to help support the things that I do, I have a Patreon page, patreon.com/MacParrot. I have a Coffee page, ko-fi.com/MacParrot. And you can make a contribution which will help pay for the bandwidth that I use for this show and some of my other shows, and also help pay for all the stuff that I buy to do these shows, as ridiculous as they all are. I would greatly appreciate any contributions that you could make. I also have, and I'm probably going to start linking to this in the show notes of all these various shows, except for maybe mymac.com. I have an Amazon wish list, which has a variety of stuff on it, mostly related to audio gear. Like I don't have enough of that already. But that is going to about do it. Again, thank you for watching and or listening to Guy's Daily Drive, and I will see you next time.